You ever have one of those moments where someone messes with your family and you just sit back thinking, you really picked the wrong one this time? That's exactly what happened when my sister-in-law, my own brother's wife, decided it was a good idea to call the cops on my wife. The problem? My wife isn't just any woman. She's the FBI director. Yeah, you heard that right. The director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And my sister-in-law had no idea. Let's just say, what started with a petty argument ended up blowing up in a way no one saw coming. It all started over something so stupid, I still shake my head thinking about it. My brother Mark and his wife, Nicole, had come over for a family barbecue. We do them once a month, a casual backyard cookout, nothing fancy, just burgers, corn on the cob, drinks, and some music. My wife, Elena, was inside handling some calls for work, still trying to wrap up loose ends before the long weekend. Nicole, always the opinionated one, started loudly complaining about everything. The food, the chairs, even the shade under the tree. Classic Nicole. Then she started going on about how Elena never lifts a finger and that she's always too good for family events. I told her to knock it off. Elena's literally leading one of the highest federal agencies in the country, not lounging around. But Nicole didn't like being told she was out of line. She sneered at me, then said something like, well, maybe someone needs to put her in her place. That should have been a red flag. I didn't know what she meant by it until much later. When Elena finally came out to join us, Nicole's attitude got even worse. She accused Elena of being cold, stuck up, and claimed that Elena looked down on her, like she was beneath her. Elena tried to remain professional, giving short, polite responses and choosing not to escalate. That just made Nicole angrier. And then, out of nowhere, Nicole screamed, "Get off your high horse and act like a normal woman for once." My wife looked her dead in the eyes, calm as ice, and said, "Nicole, I don't owe you anything. Not an explanation, not a reaction, and certainly not my respect." You could see Nicole's face turn red. She stomped back into the house, muttering under her breath. I thought she just needed to cool off. 10 minutes later, we heard sirens. At first, I thought it was just coincidence, maybe an accident down the street. But nope. 2 cop cars rolled right into our driveway. My heart dropped. One officer stepped out and said they received a call about a domestic disturbance. I was confused. There had been no fight, no screaming, no violence. I asked who called, and Nicole came out of the house with this smug little smile on her face. "I did," she said. "I told them there was a violent woman here threatening me." I swear my blood boiled. She had just lied to the police. Elena stepped forward calmly and identified herself. Agent Elena Brooks, Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The officer blinked. "Excuse me." Nicole looked stunned for the first time. She genuinely thought Elena worked some vague government desk job. But no, my wife ran the FBI. The other officer, visibly nervous now, asked for ID. Elena didn't hesitate. She produced her federal ID, badge, and credentials. Within seconds, the entire energy shifted. The officers apologized profusely and turned to Nicole, now visibly panicking. "Ma'am, you reported a false incident. That's a criminal offense." Nicole started stumbling over her words. I didn't know. She was threatening." Elena cut her off. "You weaponized law enforcement to try and intimidate me during a personal disagreement. That's not just reckless, it's dangerous. People die because of false reports like this." I was frozen. My brother stood there in shock. He didn't say a word. Not in defense of Nicole. Not even to explain. Just silence. Maybe because he realized this was bigger than a petty fight. Nicole had just crossed a line she couldn't walk back from. The police ran Nicole's information and found a prior warning from a couple years ago for a noise complaint escalation, where she also tried to file a false report against a neighbor. Pattern of behavior. This wasn't a one-time thing. The officers told Elena they would file the initial report and submit it to the local DA. Nicole's face was pale. She tried to apologize, saying it was a misunderstanding and she didn't know who Elena really was. My wife wasn't having it. She looked her dead in the eye and said, "It shouldn't matter who I am. You should treat people with respect, not try to destroy them." As the officers left, one of them told Elena, "Ma'am, I hope she learns from this, because if she does it again, she won't be walking away with just a warning." After they were gone, Nicole stormed into my brother's car and sat in the passenger seat, sulking like a child. Mark apologized to Elena and me quietly, then left without saying much else. That's when the messages started. Nicole started texting family members, twisting the story to make it sound like she was the victim. She said Elena pulled strings to make her look bad, that she was being punished for having an opinion. But screenshots don't lie. We had the security camera footage, the voice recordings from the moment the police arrived, and even the audio of Nicole screaming across the yard. What Nicole didn't know yet was that this wasn't over. Because Elena had already filed an internal federal report, not just about the false police call, but about potential misuse of emergency services that tied into a broader investigation she was part of. Nicole had no clue the scale of what she had just set in motion. 3 days later, Nicole's name showed up in a federal interagency briefing. That's when I realized my wife wasn't just letting this slide under the rug. She was making an example out of it. You see, Elena had been heading a nationwide task force investigating false emergency calls, especially the kind that put people in danger under the guise of concerned citizen reports. And now, thanks to Nicole's little stunt, my own family member was officially on that radar. But Elena wasn't acting out of revenge. It wasn't personal. It was about principle. Nicole's false 911 call wasn't just petty, it was criminal. And in today's climate, these Karen calls, as the Bureau calls them internally, often escalate into real harm. Elena's department had seen dozens of cases where innocent people got arrested, or worse, just because someone wanted to teach them a lesson. At first, I thought Elena would drop it after the initial police warning, but the deeper she looked into Nicole's past, the worse it got. My wife showed me the background check she pulled, just to be sure. Nicole had a history, multiple noise complaints, harassment warnings filed by neighbors in 2 different cities before she married my brother. One report involved her threatening to sue a neighbor's daughter over a fence line dispute. Another involved her impersonating a city code officer to intimidate a small business owner. It was a pattern, not a one-time outburst. And still, she was out there telling family I was letting my wife ruin her life. The next weekend, we hosted another barbecue, but this one was different. It wasn't for family. It was Elena's team, high-level officials from the Bureau, DOJ, and a few trusted local detectives. I couldn't help but chuckle when one of Elena's colleagues said, "Man, I'd hate to be the lady that crossed your wife. If only he knew it was my sister-in-law." Then, something unexpected happened. Nicole posted a video online, publicly, claiming she was being harassed by a powerful woman and that her freedom of speech was being taken away. She filmed it in her car, crying, acting like the innocent one, and made it sound like she was being stalked and punished unfairly. She didn't use Elena's name, but she used enough vague details to make her followers dig. A few conspiracy groups picked it up. Suddenly, strangers were commenting on our family photos. Some even messaged Elena threateningly. That's when everything escalated to a whole new level. Elena had no choice. That Monday morning, she walked into her office and issued a federal injunction. The video Nicole posted? It had crossed into defamation and misinformation. Not only was it taken down within 12 hours, but Nicole also received a formal cease and desist order and a subpoena. She was now being investigated under the very laws Elena helped draft to protect government officials from online targeted harassment. Nicole flipped out. She called my brother sobbing, saying Elena was abusing her power. But Mark? He stayed silent. He knew Nicole brought this on herself. She was unraveling, and honestly, it wasn't fun to watch. But necessary? Oh yeah. When the subpoena landed at Nicole's door, she tried to claim she didn't understand it. Claimed she was just venting. But the agents weren't playing games anymore. When you mess with law enforcement, especially at the federal level, it's not about feelings. It's about facts, evidence, intent. Nicole's social media history, past reports, and phone call to 911 were all laid out in front of her. A full case. She was now facing charges for filing a false police report, online harassment, and obstruction of justice. The trial date was set 6 weeks out. And guess who showed up at our house the night before court? My brother. Alone. He stood outside our door looking like he hadn't slept in days. I opened the door and just stared at him. He said, "I know you probably hate me, but I need to say thank you." I didn't know what to say. Then he added, "You and Elena, you didn't let her get away with it. And maybe it's about time someone didn't." Apparently, Nicole had turned the house into a battlefield. Paranoia, screaming, accusations. Mark had been living in fear of her temper for years. And now that the mask was off, he realized how much damage she had caused, not just to our family, but to their own lives. He admitted he wanted out, but didn't know how. Elena helped him with a protection affidavit, quietly and without judgment. She didn't rub it in. She helped because it was the right thing to do. The day of the hearing, Nicole tried to walk in with attitude, but as soon as she saw the courtroom filled with officials, media, and representatives from the Bureau's legal counsel, her face dropped. Elena didn't even testify. She didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. Nicole was offered a deal: probation, mandatory counseling, social media suspension, and public apology, or face trial and possible jail time. She took the deal, cried again, and finally admitted she lied. But her reputation? Gone. The family she manipulated? Done. My brother filed for separation 3 days later and moved in with friends. Nicole's apology video? It got a fraction of the views her accusation had, and most people weren't buying the tears anymore. And Elena? She walked away stronger, quieter, more resolved. Because this wasn't about ego. It was about boundaries, about accountability, about standing firm when someone weaponizes fear and authority to control others. Now, whenever people ask if it's intimidating being married to the FBI director, I just laugh. No. What's intimidating is thinking you can lie, manipulate, and bully people, and thinking the truth won't catch up to you. Subscribe our channel for more jaw-dropping real-life drama. New stories every week. You won't believe what happens next.